Hello there, it's Sandra King with Boccia Basics 4, and this week we're going to look at the real basic rules. And I would split the rules up into two types of rules. There are rules that help you to play the game, and that's what we're going to look at today. And there are rules around things you can and can't do when you're playing, which will have, something will happen basically if you do or don't do those things. So we're going to look at those next week. So first of all, boccia is played on a court roughly the same size as a badminton court, but actually you can play it any way you want to, so you don't necessarily need all these court lines. And we're going to start by looking at a team game, but we'll also just mention pairs and singles. So it doesn't matter what size of game you're playing, whether you're playing a team game, which is 3 versus 3, a pairs game, which is 2 versus 2, or a singles game, which is 1 versus 1. Each side will have 6 balls. So if you were playing a singles game, this player in the middle here would have 6 red balls, and the player that they're playing against would have the 6 blue balls. And that's how we would play the match. When we go over to pairs, we're now going to share that number of balls between the two players. And we always start with the red player on the right as the referee looks, which is where you're looking from in the camera. So this time in pairs, this player would have 3 reds, and the next player would be a blue player, because that's another rule you need to know about, is that you always alternate the players. So we're going red, blue, red, blue. So this time we're just playing with the pairs. We have 2 classification groups that play in pairs internationally, and that is the BC3s, or the players that use a ramp, and I've got one here, and the BC4s. So here we are, pairs game, but today we're going to play a team game. So that means we're going to divide the red balls up into 6 divided by 3. So that's 2 balls each. And again, red has to be on the right as the referee looks. So I'm going to give that player 2 red balls, this player 2 red balls, and this player 2 red balls. And exactly the same for the blues. They alternate between. Put the blue balls there so that the ramp assistant can reach them. And we'll put the blue balls here and here. So we are now set up for a team game. This is Boccia Basics. So I'm not going to talk more about the fact that you can have reserves and things like that. You can go and look that up if you need to. This is just enough to get somebody starting to play a match. So now let's have a look at where each of these players is sitting. They're in an area on a court. Each one of these boxes would be 2.5 meters long and 1 meter wide. So obviously for representation on the table, we haven't got the same kind of dimensions. We number the boxes. Remember that red on the right as the referee looks. So we're going to number the boxes from 1 on the right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't necessarily need to know that, but it's helpful. And then just going to pull the camera back a little bit so you can see the rest of the court. And now you can see that on the court, I've put 2 key things which you need. So the first one is this V line here. And the jack ball, the white ball, has to go over that V line. And then in the middle, cross actually should have a square around it. And honestly, I ran out of tape. So I'm very sorry, but there should be a square around that cross which is in the middle of the court. So, little tip for coaches when you're starting to play. Over here, you might see I've got my referee and they've got the jack ball. So if you keep the jack ball, your players can't start playing until you're ready for them to start playing. So now these players will have tossed a coin to see who's going to play red and blue. They will have decided where they sit. Very unusual for a ramp player to sit in an outside box. They usually sit in one of the middle boxes, but really it's up to the teams how they want to do that. So the jack ball starts with the red player on the right as the referee looks. So the referee is going to bring the jack ball over to the first red player. The referee will then stand at the side of the court, just off the court, and ask for jack, please. And that's the signal for the red player in box 1 to throw the jack. The jack has to go across this V line, which is also known as the jack ball line. So that helps us to remember that it's the jack ball that has to go over it. The coloured balls don't have to go over the V line, that's fine. This player might be asking the rest of his team where they'd like to set the jack, and then he's going to throw the jack out onto the court. And needless to say, this very hard jack has gone completely out of your sight, so I'll just move it back again. There we go. So the next rule is the player who throws the jack is the player that throws the first coloured ball. So their idea will be to try and play exactly the same shot to come up close to that jack. So now we have a red ball on the court. We need a blue ball on the court, and the referee is going to show the paddle to say blue. And this time, any one of these blue team can play. Once the paddle is shown, their time starts, they can discuss who is going to play and which shot they're going to play. At lower levels, you probably wouldn't have timers perhaps. So what I'm doing now is each player is just lining up, getting themselves ready to play a shot. But actually the team have decided it's this blue over here. It doesn't matter which one. They've decided this player over here is going to try and play a shot over there. Okay, and now when the referee has a look, they can see that the blue ball is closer to the jack than the nearest red ball. And if blue is closest, red will go next. So now the 3 red players have a chance to discuss. They might also start to line up and think about what they're going to do. And they're going to have an agreement about what they do. So this red player has decided they really want to get behind the jack. So make sure that referee is right off the court so it's not in the way. And the red player is going to play up here and try and put a ball near the side or the back of the jack there. So red is now closest. If red is closest, blue goes next. Once again, blues get their choice. This time they might decide that this player would like to play a knock on or a push on. They're going to try and move their ball. So that unfortunately involves moving absolutely everything in the box. They're going to manoeuvre so that the ramp assistant is on the other side. The player is going to instruct the ramp assistant to line the ramp up and then ask for the ball on the ramp and play the ball. Oh, doesn't usually happen. We don't usually get players falling out of chairs. So that was a very nice knock-on shot or push-on shot. Not quite close enough. So red is still closest and blue will play again. So now they're going to decide maybe this blue player will take a shot. They're going to come up here. Unfortunately, these players are a little bit wobbly. They don't sit in their seats very well. They might need some straps. Okay, so here we are going to play a shot through here. Oh, well, that's opened up, but the blue shot has gone right off the court. So it's blues again. Red is still closest. Blue to play next. At this point, we might play this player, come across, and now there's a situation where both balls, the red and the blue, are now touching the jack. It's a very unusual situation. The referee will have to have a really good look down from the top. And in fact, if the blue player if both balls are touching, the team that played the last shot will get to play the next one. So blue are now going to play again because we've got equidistant balls there. So this time, ramp player is a little bit blocked. Really going to depend on this player here to play their shot next. And they're going to play a really hard shot, try and knock into these and spread them about. And the jack ball has gone off of the court, so we're going to replace it on the jack ball cross. And the Referee is going to move to a new position. So now if we look now, the nearest ball to the jack now that it's been replaced on the cross is the blue ball. So now it's reds to play. The jack is open, so the reds decided this player is going to play up to the jack. Red is now closest, so it will be blue to play. And now we just have this one player left. We'll see if we can keep them in their chair while they play their shot. I don't know who's having more fun here, me or you? Oh, unlucky, that one's gone a little bit too far. I think these balls might need softening a little bit. So reds now have an opportunity. They can decide they're very happy with their 1 point to red because they've got one red ball nearer to the jack than the nearest blue. And as you can see, there's no blue balls left to throw. Or reds might decide that they want to try and maximise their score because they will score 1 point for every ball that is closer than this nearest blue ball. So the scoring circle that we talked about, I think it was last week, is quite big. The risk is quite small, therefore the reds would probably decide to see if they can score some more. So we'll try ball in here. Oh, that one's very wobbly, it's gone in at the last minute. We'll have another one from this player. Not quite as good, that one didn't get in, and we'll have a ball from this player. Oh, and that's just bounced off, gone a bit too far away. So at the end, the referee is going to check, have we played all the balls? And yes, the referee can see all of the balls. Which ball is closest? It's the red one. How many reds are closer than the nearest blue? And the answer is these two reds. The referee will come down towards the players and indicate the score is 2 to red. And the red captain might then want to go out and have a little look and check. Blue captain also wants to come out and have a look. Yes, they agree with that. Back they come into their box. The score is agreed. It's 2 to red. We might show if there's a timekeeper or a scorekeeper there, or if there's an audience, the referee might turn to say it's 2 to red. And then the end is finished. And the assistants, the referee, will come and collect the balls and we'll start the next end. So that's how you play an end of boccia. If you're playing a singles match with just these two players, or a pairs match with these 4 players, you would play 4 ends. And in the first end, the red on the right as the referee looks would set the jack. On the second end, the blue would set the jack in the next box. On end 3, it would be the red. On end 4, it would be the blue. We've got a team game going on here with 6 players. So in team games, we play 6 ends. So we're playing end 1 from box 1 and end 2 from box 2 and so on until we've played all 6 ends. There are a couple of exceptions. So if, for instance, let's take it's end 3. Quickly put these balls back. So if something goes wrong with the jack ball, it changes things a little bit. So an example of something going wrong with the jack ball might be that the jack ball doesn't cross the jack ball line, which means it's in this area where it's called the non-valid area for the jack ball. Very snappy title. And this player, the red player, threw it and it didn't get onto court. It didn't get over the line. So the referee will take the ball and give it to the next player. So this is now a really big advantage to blues because they get to set the jack in the third end. And in the fourth end, the jack will come back to this player because that's where it should be anyway. Exactly the same happens if, let's take this 5th player. This time it's the 5th end. If this player threw the ball and it went off of the court, so the ball has gone completely out of court. Again, it will be passed to the next player to play. And then in the 6th end, this player would get it again because it's their right for the player in box 6 to get it in end 6. So you always want to try and make sure you do a legal jack. So if it's the jack that goes off of court, it gets moved to the next end. If the jack goes off the court during the end, it gets replaced on the jack ball cross in the centre. There's only one other thing you really need to know about, and that's a tie break. If after playing all of these ends, the score is equal, you play a tie break. I just want to think about that scoring for a moment, because do you remember in that first end, Reds tried to consolidate and they scored 2 points. Let's imagine that in the next 4 ends, Blue have scored, let's say Blue have scored 1 in this end, 1 in this end. We're now 2 all. 1 in this end and 1 in this end. So we're now 4-2. Blues have scored in more ends than Red have, and they've scored more points. So that's fine, they're winning. If in the last end, Red scores 3 points, the score would now be 5-4 to Red. It doesn't matter that Blues won 4 ends, it's the total score that matters. Okay, so although Reds would only have won 2 ends, they've scored 5 points, whereas Blues have only scored 4 points from the other 4 ends. So it's the points that accumulate that matter. However, if after you've played the standard number of ends, so 4 ends for singles or pairs, 6 ends for a team, if it's a tie, we'll then play a tie break where the jack will be put on the cross in the centre. We'll toss the coin to see which team is going to go first, and you play that end out exactly the same as we did in the first end we showed you. So if Blues have won the toss and decided to go first, they will go first, then Reds, and then we'll carry on, remembering that if Red is closest, Blue goes next, or if Blue is closest, Red goes next. So there are more rules. These are the basic rules, and I've actually slipped in a couple that are less basic and don't happen so often, of how you get to play the game. And this is what you need your players to start learning. I think it's really good to not only play, but also practice being the referee. Because when you're the referee, you really have to start to learn what those rules are. And you can also have more than one referee, and they might be refereeing different things. So in this case, we're trying to do the order of the game. So actually, they might just be helping each other to referee. But next week, we're going to look at some of the things that you might do wrong as a player and what happens as a result. And so therefore, you might have somebody looking for one thing that looks wrong and somebody else looking for something else. So there you go. How to play Boccia, basic rules of how to play the game. Have fun with that, and I'll see you again next week.